I'd like to call this meeting of the APC to order. This would be our regular monthly August meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight and remind you to please silence your phones before we get started. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise and recite the Pledge of the Flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now have roll call, please.
Darren Price.
Here.
Leota is absent. Brian Durham.
Here.
Ed Harrell is, where'd Ed go?
Egypt.
Gary Naylor.
Present.
Kathy Rhodes.
Present.
Bill Mackey.
Here.
Brian Robb.
Here.
Brian Hensley. Bill McDaniel.
Present.
Jeff Wesley.
Present.
And myself.
And we do have a quorum, do we not?
Yes.
All right, we'll proceed on. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the June 25th and July 23rd APC meetings.
It's only,
Amendment to the 23rd meeting. Darren's name is spelled wrong on there. So I make that motion with the correction of spelling Darren's name right.
I think I remember. Yep, D-A-R-E-N. And it's,
D-E-R-O-N.
okay. I thought I caught it everywhere, but I didn't.
Okay. Is a motion made with that correction? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded by Brian and Darren. Any questions? All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Sorry. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, tonight we're here primarily for a public hearing. It would be for petition number 15052. The petitioner would be Louis J. Heeb Jr. and Connersville Group LLC for a partial address of 700 East 5th Street. The current zoning classification is general business and two-family residential. They are petitioning to ask that the zoning map amendment of the north 1.96 acres from R2 to general business to eliminate the split zoning districts and bring the entire parcel into the general business zoning district in order to redevelop the south half of the parcel. With that, is there any questions before I open for the public hearing? I officially open the public hearing at this time. We'll hear from the petitioner tonight.
Yeah, I'm Andrew Lozic. I work at Air Engineering. I'm representing Connersville Group and Mr. Heeb this evening for the rezone of the rear portion of the 700 East 5th Street. I want to thank you for the consideration of our request. And then pretty much what Gary was saying, our request is to rezone the rear parcel from R2 residential to GB business in order to construct a general retail facility. After construction, as of right now, we plan to have less impervious area that is currently there now. But we are just trying to look to clean up the zoning of our parcel so there's one unified zoning for our parcel. I do have a preliminary site plan, if anybody wants to see. That is our project. And the Connersville Group currently has a purchase agreement on this property and the rezone, and if the rezone were to move forward, we would then begin design and permitting on this site. We did have variances approved at the July BZA meeting. But, so, yeah, that's kind of what we're petitioning for.
All right, if you don't mind, if you do have a picture,
Yep,
maybe start down here and we can just
Yeah.
kind of pass it down and kind of take a look at it.
I do have a second one I can.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
This should be, I imagine it's the same one that was included in your packet.
Yes, it will be the
Okay,
same. one.
all right. Okay, do you have anything else to add?
I do not believe so.
Okay, Mr. Heap, do you have anything to add?
Ditto.
Okay. Are there anyone here to speak against the petition tonight? Seeing none, questions from any of the board members?
Great, thank you, Gary.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is a motion made, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. Been a motion made and properly seconded that we close the public hearing. At this time, is there any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Darren Price,
Yes.
Brian Durham,
Yes.
Ed Harrell,
Yes.
Gary Naylor,
Yes.
Yes.
Kathy Rhodes,
Yes.
Brian Robb,
Yes.
Bill Mackey,
Yes.
and that's all the votes.
It's a unanimous vote that we close the public hearing. I hereby close it at this time.
Okay.
Any other questions or for Bill or?
All right, the city council meeting, I've already dropped the copy of the ordinance for the city off. I gave them the copy of the staff report as it stands, and you'll still be able to attend then in my stead.
That's
So Mr. Naylor has graciously offered to stand in my stead at the city council meeting. It'll be at 7 o'clock on Tuesday, the 8th. It's on Tuesday because it's the Labor Day is on the 7th, September 7th this year. And also between Mr. Naylor and then also Mr. Robb, I think we'll have it pretty well taken care of with our representatives to answer questions any city council members may have.
all right.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to give a favorable recommendations for the petition number 15052 for the zoning of the parcel to single general business. That's a long motion, but
There's a motion made and seconded that we send a favorable recommendation to the Connersville City Council for petition number 15052. Is there a second?
I'll second.
So motion made by Brian and seconded by Darren. Roll call vote, please.
Darren Price,
Yes.
Brian Durham,
yes.
Ed Harrell,
Yes.
Gary Naylor,
Yes.
Kathy Rhodes,
Yes.
Brian Robb,
Yes.
Bill Mackey.
Yes.
That's it.
Motion carries unanimously. We will be sending a favorable recommendation for your rezone to the city council for on September 8th then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, we appreciate it. All right,
Get used to commissioners' meetings.
I guess so.
Well, for this,
All right, moving on, we have 2020 APC projects, revised the priority projects. We've been looking at the rules of procedures, and I think we've had some sample copies sent out to everybody to look at. I hope we've had time to kind of review those and look at those. And also the zoning code in general. We've had some things. Brian, you have something here you want to speak on tonight, or?
I can. I started on the parking regulations that we had, which would be 15333, which are very detailed as to our parking regulations and very specific for very specific reasons. We feel the need to name bowling alleys specifically or certain retail specifically. We do that throughout the zoning code, and we contradict ourselves in the zoning code and then throw in there, if it contradicts something else within this part of the code, go with whatever is the larger value.
Yeah, the most strict.
Yeah. We don't allow for permeable surfaces at all in our code. So as it is right now, if you have a gravel parking area at your house, that would technically be in violation of the zoning code, the way it's written, because it doesn't allow for any of that. And I know several people have, gravel surfaces in their driveways, so.
Isn't always practical.
We have things that aren't enforceable, like we don't have the power to enforce, or the time, or resources to enforce things. And it takes forever to go through this stuff and line by line and change wording and
Yeah, there
get
is.
some mays and shalls and ambiguity. And maybe even, putting less on Bill with discretion, like, so he doesn't, not just Bill, whoever is the executive director, so they don't feel like the decision's all on their shoulders. Because nobody wants somebody to think that they made the wrong decision, appeal it, and go through that process. I think it should be our job, or whoever served on this board, or the BZA, to make those decisions and put too much pressure on one person. Now, obviously, when those were written, there were more than one employee in the office, so it wasn't so taxing on one person, but now, Bill's a one-man show. And as far as I know, for the foreseeable future, it will be a one-man show, so trying to alleviate some of those, I don't want to say duties, but hurdles that allow him to do other things, to plan instead of look at applications.
Because there is a clause, actually, what Brian's referring to, because there is a clause within the zoning code that, the Area Plan Commission has an interpretation role. I think that could probably be stronger, and it may be wise then to really emphasize that role, the interpretation role for the zoning code within the rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. On that particular section, where do we go from here? Brian, are you working on some drafts, or?
Yeah, I have it drafted. I've sent it to Jeff to see if he sees anything that we might need to change on wording. And like I said, it's very detailed, like incredibly detailed on parking. I looked at other places to see if our measurements for certain parking spaces were on par, and everywhere I looked, we were on par with everywhere else as far as width and length and
those kind of
angle,
things.
like those types of things were on par with everywhere else. Then some things like a person's not allowed to have more than one 1.5 ton trucks in their driveway. That's what our zoning code says. So if you have 2 trucks in your driveway, you're in violation of the zoning code.
This is in the residential area.
It doesn't say, it says.
Oh, really?
It
Okay.
says if you have it in a driveway, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, there's a lot of things like that also, is the, yeah, the parking, then the parking part dealing with the, recreation vehicles.
Mhm.
Then there's some other ones with there, and then the big one really is, it affects businesses, are the ones with the excessive standards, the other excessive requirements.
Right now, we're at, I think it's 125 square feet gross. And the way we define gross is a net, which
Yeah.
it says gross, but we're really the net space
Yeah,
in the building.
Well, we really need one or the other.
Yeah, well, we say gross, but we take out anything that, we say it's the gross space of the building, but then we exclude any permanent storage, so that would be
So, yeah,
net.
so
but-
it needs to be net. It's, I think it's language that they're relating back to the building, the model building codes. Because depending upon the use, is there's square footage per person is either a net or it's a gross. And I really haven't been able to discern really why it varies from one to the other.
Mhm.
Much like, you know, this previous, that the BZA did last month with this parcel here. By our code, they needed 78 parking spaces. They felt they only needed 35, whatever we gave them the variance, and I think, you know, a business knows how many parking spaces that they might need. I mean, that limits them, like, they're the ones who,
They're the ones that's gonna.
yeah, that, if they don't have enough parking, that seems like that's their problem, not
Other
our
than,
problem.
I can understand the, on the other side of the coin, I can understand the concern to make sure that all of their customers park on their property rather than someone else's property.
Right.
I can understand that concern on the other side of the coin, but,
And just in general, that particular parcel, I've always thought had a very excessive parking lot. And it was probably constructed to meet those standards.
you know,
Uh,
at that day.
Yeah.
In that day, yeah. I'm not sure I ever remember that parking lot completely being full, but.
Now, all that impervious surface just adds to their water bill. I mean,
Yeah, the,
Yeah, it adds to development costs.
yeah.
mhm.
I mean, it should really be something that we should consider allowing permeable surfaces with a special exception maybe, to, you know, to know the business and know whether or not, obviously, if it's a retail store, probably needs to have a real, like a solid surface parking lot.
Yeah.
If it's a shop at somebody's a home-based business and they wanna have gravel, I mean, they know their customers, we shouldn't tell them,
Yeah.
you know, what their customers should park on.
Yeah, and one of the things also with the gravel and so on, with then making sure there's buffer spaces between, because if you're in the city limits, then a lot of, if you have heavy rains, and a lot of the gravel and the other debris and the sediment then ends up in the sewer system, the storm sewer system. So it's figuring out how really all that works. The only one that specifically calls out for the gravel is on car lots, which is kind of ironic because you have an impermeable surface, but you're also liable to have leaking contaminants that then permeate, that percolate down into the soil and into the water. So there's a lot, there's a lot of
Yeah,
things.
it mentions any business that would deal in chemicals can have a permeable surface.
Yeah, it's kind of antiquated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like it'd be the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Just the opposite, yeah.
But,
Well, it gives you an idea
Whatever
about.
way to catch it. Actually, no, I mean, honestly, if it's a paved surface and you have a major spill, it goes directly into your storm drain, goes directly to the river. So actually, there is some logic to, you would rather it be immobilized within the soil where you could potentially capture it before it goes straight to the river. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and nobody wants it to be anywhere, don't get me
Right,
wrong,
yeah.
but it's much more easily cleaned up in a soil than it is once it's in the river and it's gone.
I just think it's weird that we, you know, specifically put that into the.
Yeah, no, I doubt it was put in for the reason that I don't
Yeah.
have any confidence it was put in for the reason I just said. I mean,
knows why?
now I think that's why, but I don't think that's why it was in there to begin
Yeah,
with.
well, I suspect it's a carryover from a pre-Clean Water Act model ordinance.
I would agree, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd agree.
Okay. Anything else you've been working on, Brian?
Mr. Naylor, if I may,
Yes, sure.
I was approached by one of the board members to look at the CFO ordinance because it's kind of gotten some, attention here lately. So I have prepped an option, for you guys to review. I wouldn't expect you to look at it tonight, but I would think, it would be my recommendation that we get it on the agenda for September. If we get it on the agenda for September to talk about, to see if we like the way we currently have it, if we'd like to move to this, if we'd like a combination. Then I think it's logical that if you're really wanting to relook at that, then we could probably have a public hearing in October.
Okay.
So everybody kind of review it this month, in September, have a general discussion with everybody who's had it in front of them on their plate, and then in October, maybe look at a public hearing to kind of, you guys had kind of tasked me with getting some of these things cleaned up, and that was a specific board member came specifically with that ordinance to have me look at that. That's something they thought needed to be looked at. So I'm going to kind of press you guys to see if that's something you want to do, and that's the steps we need to take, okay?
All right, along with this, do we want to put the parking on the agenda for next month to compare the two and?
As much as he's got cleaned up, as close as he is, I think absolutely.
Yeah.
Could we look at both of them next
Absolutely.
month?
I
then?
have one little section of it, the loading portion of it to look at on what they
Okay.
call for.
And since we passed the threshold for something being on for a public hearing, so there will be no public hearing for either the BZA or the APC
Next meeting,
in September.
For September, so we could spend the whole meeting basically
Discussing these.
discussing these items, okay.
Yeah, that also, and with Carrie's draft, I think it's come along really good as far as the language in the draft.
I was gonna say, but Carrie has been working on some
Yeah.
drafts for procedures, rules and procedures. Do we wanna put that on the agenda as well and
Well, yeah, I think we need to
to
start.
compare?
I
Well,
will say this,
if-
I'm not sure if I can finish, I don't know that I can get the rest of the draft finished in a timely enough manner for you guys. I mean,
Okay.
my work is very good, don't get me wrong, but it's feast or famine, and right now it's feast. And so, I have probably half of it left, and I kinda ran into the thing that Brian ran into, where I tried to take ours and pare it down, and then I tried to find different ordinances and try to put them together and make a choose your own adventure for you guys to look at. And what I'm finding out is, in my email I state, for those of you that are on that committee, basically I said, I wanted to do a choose your own adventure, I wanted to give everybody options, but there's so few things that are at our discretion. And so,
It's Maryland
reached
state
out.
statute.
yes, it's all, basically, my mind just wants to say, go read this and that's what we're gonna do. But
Yeah.
then train our board and everybody involved to actually follow that. But there are still some pieces that are missing there, and I can have it ready before the next meeting, but I'm not sure I can get it in front of you in enough time to review it.
Well,
Well,
Then let's discuss
up to
maybe-
where we have it now, I think would be good.
Having it, what'd you say, Bill, I'm sorry?
I think going up to as far as everything that Carrie's provided so far, be reasonable to have the discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Because
I'm happy with it, like I said, you're probably looking at 2 weeks before I can have a finished product.
Yeah. Yeah, so
So I didn't know
We'll
if that would
discuss
be.
what we can.
Okay. that
next
sounds
month.
good.
Yeah,
That's great.
because what we're getting into, particularly with hearing procedures and the disposition of the petitions, that's the hairiest part.
Yes, and mostly on that kind of stuff, I wanted to look
She's
at,
working on the rules and procedures.
what's odd to me is that a lot of our rules of procedure are very detailed, very, very well written. And then in the places like, in the places where I needed more detail, it's harder to find that detail in our ordinance, in our rules of procedure. So I've been trying to marry those together, and what I'm finding is that some communities are really strong in one area. So almost everything that you read in there is paraphrased or merged from another county. So There's about 5 counties that have really good ordinances, and so you might see a paragraph from Jay County and a paragraph from Rush County, and then the next paragraph is from Grant County. That Evansville ordinance, or rules of procedures is really good. So I've just tried to, and that's what I'm, just trying to work through it.
All right, Jeff, help me with this, or you or Bill, either one. With our zoning, if we change any of our zoning, it'll be voted on by this board, but it has to be approved by the governing body,
Yeah, by the legislative bodies.
whether it's the commissioners or the council, depending on where it's at, or both,
Yeah.
regardless.
Well, both if it's languages in the entire zoning code with the languages, both.
Okay,
Okay, for example, what we did tonight is strictly within the city limits, only the city council.
okay.
But yeah, when you're actually doing the amendment to the text of the ordinance, we need both.
So, for instance, parking ordinance would be approved by both.
Yeah,
A CAFO ordinance would only be approved by.
be both. Actually, it's both.
Because you're changing the ordinance.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
Even if
so
it
when
primarily affects the county incorporated or unincorporated areas.
Okay,
Okay, now, another one is, I think I know most of the board members understand. I don't think everybody else, a lot of people really don't understand, is that, okay, because I get questions, is that the area plan commission, and as far as the building codes and so on with the area plan commission, we don't have any, okay, the county has jurisdiction in Glenwood on the Fayette County side. But as it's an incorporated town, they did not sign on to adopt the zoning code or the building codes, that for the area, the planning, zoning, and building codes, I don't have authority within Glenwood. Because they have to say, we want you to do it.
right,
So,
okay.
yeah,
All
so,
right.
so
And then
not
the-
everybody, the question occasionally comes up, and, but I just want people to know that.
The rules and procedures. Who,
That's
just
strictly
the
board.
That's
that is
not
just the
legislative
boards,
body.
right? The
Correct.
the BZA and the APC will both.
The APC would adopt their rules of procedure, the BZA would adopt theirs.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Just wanted to kind of
And that,
explain that
and
to
those don't need a
everybody.
public hearing, those don't need a public hearing, those can be,
But any zoning changes.
Yep.
Require
Yep.
public hearing.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, any other questions or comments, or anything we want to add to that? Okay,
I have a
Right.
quick question, just for clarification's sake. At the next meeting, it is not a public hearing for the parking. It is just strictly for the board to discuss and talk about
Yeah.
language and make sure.
try to create
Yep.
that final draft
Yeah.
to go to a public hearing.
Yeah.
Exactly, it's so that we can have, our discussions will be then very public, so people can't say that, oh, you sprung it on us.
Right,
Because-
I just wanted to make sure,
Yeah.
because if it would not, if folks come, there would not be an opportunity to talk at the next meeting. It would be whenever it was at the public.
Yeah.
At a public hearing.
well, the board can always allow somebody to talk, but it would not be open for a public hearing in which they have a right to speak.
Okay. They could, but they wouldn't.
But that would be up to the board, right?
Up to the board.
It sounds like the October hearing's the public hearing, and that's when they actually have the opportunity,
Yes.
the right constitutionally to speak.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Anything else on those subjects? Brandon, I appreciate your work on that, Carrie as well, and Jeff on this CAFO, ordinance, potential ordinance. We'll move on to the director's report for July.
Okay, anybody have any questions on it? It was included in, I think I included it in the packet this time anyway. But I did bring extra copies, and so people wouldn't necessarily have to dig all
I
the
just
way
have
through the
one question. Last July, a lot of that was the school project, right, last July? The July that the field house project?
That was last year.
Yeah, I'm looking at July of 19, just.
Yeah, a lot of that, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah.
Just comparing year over year that, you know,
Yep.
without a school building a massive structure there.
Yeah, because it's late summer when they actually started with doing the piers and the footings. I was out there a lot.
The city also had large projects last year, right, with the
Yeah.
solar development.
Yeah, yeah.
Even with those two big things last year, we're far ahead of year-to-date and from last year to this year.
And what we'll see is then for August is, and I think Bill can attest to this, is that I've actually filled up 3 sheets. So right now I'll have 1 inspection set up tomorrow morning. And we're going to almost have actually 60 site visits in August. It's been a long time since I've really had that many site visits. So, yes, it's,
And he's leaving
He's
on
leaving.
vacation. Did you catch that?
No, I just think it's great that people are spending money on, making improvements to buildings, houses, et cetera.
Yes. Speaking of that, we talked about permit rates. Have you been have you been able to work on any of that, or
yeah,
ideas or comparisons?
yeah, I have something I can send the board members when I get back.
Okay,
'Cause I've been working on this for a while. I have about the, the approximate idea what it should be with the actual rates, dealing with the base rate. Then you have a base rate then based on the number of inspections you really need to do.
okay,
And, there's a couple different ways to go about it.
okay, great. I thought you were working on it. But,
Yeah, it's pecking at it here and there.
Yeah. One-man show.
Yep. And I'm glad the vast majority of people understand that.
Any other questions for Bill on his report? I'll entertain a motion to accept that report.
So moved.
Motion made by Brian. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Second by Kathy. There's been a motion made and seconded that we approve the director's report as presented. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion
Ed just
carries.
said it, yeah.
Anything else, Bill, that you have for us, Mary?
That is it, really.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn it.
So moved.
Second.
Did you get that? Okay. Motion made and seconded for adjournment.
Yep.
You're too late, buddy.
I'm standing out there, I thought it was 7:30. It's been 7:30 every time.
It's all right, we just turned it.
Zoning board was 7:30. Yeah, obviously your engineer didn't want you here for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I got my wires crossed, sorry. I was standing out there in the lobby. I haven't seen him, I'll just go on back.
There's been a motion made and seconded for adjournment. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Flashback City.
Okay, I now declare the August 27, 2020 Board of Zoning meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To
the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call, please.
Okay, Carrie Simpkins,
Here.
Bill Crawford,
Here.
Jeff Fisher,
Here.
Brian Durham.
Here.
Leota is absent. Bill McDaniel,
Present.
Jeff Wissling,
Present.
and myself.
Okay, next on the agenda is petition number 15067.
It's approval of minutes.
Oh, sorry.
Just,
She's my helper. Okay, approval, I guess next on the agenda is approval of minutes for July 23rd, 2020.
I just have the amendment of spelling Carrie's name correctly. I'll make that motion to approve.
it's my spell checker guy here.
I'll second it.
All right.
I was like, I don't remember that lady being, oh yeah, that's what she was talking about. She got my name spelled wrong.
Okay, we got a motion made and properly seconded to approve the minutes from July 23rd, 2020. All those in favor?
Uh,
All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now we'll go back to petition 15067 for John and Amanda Birch. You want to come up and give us a little description of what's going on?
Okay, and go ahead and then tell them what you're gonna do, how you're gonna run it,
Okay.
and the ways, because, so it isn't gonna have a negative effect. You know, the thing sort of that we asked you with the staff, get ready for the staff report.
Okay. So we are wanting to put a hair salon at our home. If all of our neighbors are good with it, it's appointment only, not taking new customers, so it'll be pretty limited, people in and out. I usually see about 6 to 8 clients per day. I'm not gonna put up a sign, so I won't need anything for that. Parking will be well away from the road up by our house. 1 to 2 cars at a time. So, pretty simple. But any questions or anything I'm forgetting?
Sounds good.
The parking will be roughly 150 feet away from the road, so everybody should be well off.
Any questions?
All kinds of space for the parking.
Yeah, we're good there.
Anybody got
Good
questions? No? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. With that, we'll go ahead and close the public meeting for petition.
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
Okay.
I'll second.
I'm good that way. All right, got a motion made and properly seconded to close the hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay,
Thank you very much.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the home occupation for petition 15067.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and properly seconded to approve the petition. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, so you just need to go in and talk to Bill.
And you know, wait until after the 13th, because otherwise I can't talk to you.
Okay.
You'll be in the mountains.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, big hole in the ground, actually.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the director's report.
I move to accept the director's report.
So, second.
Well, motion made and properly seconded to accept the director's report as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda is my favorite part.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Motion made and properly made to second for adjournment. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Let's go home.